going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV at Radio Row, Super Bowl 59. I think I want to do daily with someone today. You know, guys, it's always just me. I think it's time we bring in another voice for Packers Daily. Why don't you come on over here, buddy?
Oh, hey there. What's going on, everybody?
Tom
How are we
Grossi
doing?
joining me here on Packers Daily. We're going to talk some Josh Jacobs. We're going to talk some Super Bowl. We're going to talk some New Orleans. How you doing, Tom?
I'm good, man. You know what's really funny, too, because I got off the plane this morning,
right.
And then when I got here, everyone's like, Josh Jacobs, and I hadn't been on the internet.
Right.
And
so you're like, what the hell is going on?
And I was like, what did Josh Jacobs say? And apparently it's the apocalypse out here.
I mean, okay, let's address that. Let's get right to it. Right off the bat here, Josh Jacobs talking about a couple of different things. Pass rushers were mentioned, but the headline of the day is Mr. Jacobs out here saying, we need a wide receiver one. Your response, Tom Grossi.
I don't understand even why there's controversy, because I feel like, I'm just going to speak for myself here.
Yeah.
Like after this season, right? Heading into this season, there was the assumption of like, okay, has last season ended? There's so much potential, right? Like the Wicks, he was just a route running guy.
Absolutely.
Watson's a deep threat guy. Jaden Reed could do everything, right? Bo Melton's Bo Melton. You know, like there are all these things going on.
Really talented guys.
And it was all about potential,
right?
And then as this season played out, you go, okay, there could be some adjustments here. There could be some guys here. There's some guys who dropped the ball a bunch. There's some guys, things did not go so well, right? Yeah. So I think at the end of the year, I don't know who hasn't been saying like they need another wide receiver. I think
especially as this season played out.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Like by
the Watson
the end,
injury and who knows what's happening with Dobbs and the repeated head issue. So you would think, adding talent there, all the sense in the world. Now, does it have to be a veteran wide receiver?
So that's where I'm going to differ, right? Because if you're looking at free agency, the big name that's always coming up in the chat is T. Higgins, right?
Yes.
But if we are complaining about Christian Watson's injury concerns, then we're going to be complaining about T. Higgins as well, right?
Maybe they can track it so one's injured while the other one's healthy.
It's 1 week on,
they just keep going on and off.
But I think ultimately, like you're just looking at the only difference here is just ranking the need, right? Because I think you're looking at pass rusher, you're looking at corner, and you're looking at wide receiver.
Yep.
For me, I think wide receiver kind of falls down the list.
I
Watson
agree.
Being injured for a good chunk of the upcoming year,
that
changes things, right? Because you
issue.
need somebody there.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really controversial, like what he's saying. And Tyler and I were talking about this before. If you are a wide receiver on the Green Bay Packers and you were upset by the comments that Josh Jacobs made, good.
Yes.
Good.
You
know how you solve that problem?
Fuel to the fire.
You know how you solve that problem, Aaron?
Go out and you catch the ball.
You go out there and you catch the ball.
You get open.
That's it.
You make yourself available to the quarterback.
So obviously, there's layers to it, but ultimately, like I don't imagine a world where they're not going and picking someone, day 2, something like that, going to get another wide receiver, and then kind of rolling and seeing what they got. But I think ultimately, pass rusher, who Josh Jacobs talked about as well, saying like, hey, I'm on the phone with these guys.
Right.
That would be an even larger need, considering secondary is also
to me,
a need.
That's more important.
Correct.
And I keep saying this, and everybody watching is probably sick of it, but I believe in my core, this season is about bolstering both fronts, the defensive and offensive lines, because I think they've got what they need. Yes, I want to keep adding talent,
of course,
but to me, those games against the better teams, the elite teams that they lost this year, almost to a game, they were lost up front.
It's that, and I feel like there's this perception too about the Packers, and let me be first and foremost, the division record sucked. Like there's no way around that, right?
We're not used to that around.
No, it's not. Like that's LaFleur's first time with a losing divisional record, right? Like it was just not good, and could have been easily been swept by the entire division.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, and I'm not to compare everybody, but like we are all on the couch together. We all won the same amount of games.
Yeah.
And so you have two 14-win teams, right? And the Vikings and you have the Lions, and they're at the same exact position.
It's crazy.
And I think just if you want to take something away from this is like, right, Jordan's got to play better, 100%. You need some wide receiver help. You need some O-line help. You need there's things that you can address. But seeing the squad that you had, you're the team that held the Eagles to the lowest points that they had the entire postseason.
In the playoffs,
right? Like, and without those turnovers, that game is close. Saquon could have broken one. Like, that game is close. Like, I feel pretty damn good going forward because now it's about, okay, Goody can go on the mic and say, like, this is now about a championship, all that great. It should be every year, right? But at the end of the day, now you know what pieces you have to address. You have to address pass rusher. You're probably going to grab O-line. You're going to grab a receiver, and you're going to have to address corner. So I think now going forward, it's like, cool. Now we know what we need to address. Everything else is pretty damn good. Let's rock.
I totally agree. And what's funny to me, though, is like when Josh Jacobs says it into several different microphones, right, as far as needing a veteran, a bona fide number one, that frames it in a way that I don't think the Packers, I'm not going to say they don't care, but I don't think they're looking at it that way.
Well, it's also depending on who's available, right? Like, like if we Cooper Kupp has come up, and I'm like, I don't want to touch Cooper Kupp with a 10-foot pole.
Man, I put no. You know my yes, no, maybe tweets. I put a no on him. People were furious.
Please go watch Cooper Kupp this year. Please. Like, do you know how many
brings
Rams
up the Triple
Crown
thing? I'm like, that was
3 years ago now.
In the NFL.
This is like he had an amazing season 3 years ago, and he's still a good wide receiver. I am not paying that contract. I am not touching the draft capital.
Agreed.
Like, we're not touching any of that because the guy at best right now is a wide receiver too, because it did not take very long for Puka to be the guy there. And again, like you could have that veteran leadership, but I don't think you're getting what you want out of Cooper Kupp, if you're bringing him to Green Bay.
What are you thinking about Devontae? Is that in your mind, in the Grossi world, is that realistic?
It's on my mind. It's going to come down to capital, and knowing the Green Bay Packers, that is always going to be, anytime that there's going to be draft capital involved, Goody has seemed like the GM that's like, well, I can just go out and get somebody, right? Like, I'll go out and get my free agents. I'll go and draft somebody. Like, O-line, it's obviously a need, but it's not like, I'm not even concerned about that because he's shown that he can go out and draft.
Not only can you draft them, they can develop them.
Correct.
They know how to bring these guys along. There's no doubt about it. I think they just need a bit more talent there because you saw once Jenkins went down, Jordan Morgan's on IR. You got a couple of very raw developmental players playing in a playoff game from the start. Essentially.
And it's also with Jordan Morgan too, right? It's who was picked over, like, and so like Cooper DeJean is going to come up and all that great stuff. And I agree. And like Carrie's even saying here, like, you guys, it's true, but we need a field stretcher. That's Christian Watson.
Yes.
So now with Christian Watson going to be missing an extended amount of time in 2025, great. Now you can go and get somebody, and whether that's going to be a day 2 guy that can stretch the field. Because like I'm looking at our receivers right now, and like, again, we're still at that potential. But it's like you said,
but it's all of them potential at the same time, which we're not used to in Green Bay.
Correct. And that's where there's potential problems, because we're looking at who can step up, but someone's got to. Like, at the end of the day, like, they got to.
And we're going to get to all your questions. We got comments, we got super chats and all that. Thank you all for hanging out, and hello to Tom Grossi for chilling with us. My thing I keep going back to is we're not used to it in Green Bay because we have Ted did such an amazing job of having somebody in the pipeline, right? Like, this guy was going to mentor that guy, and this guy was going to do. There was an obvious, like, when Brian ripped the Band-Aid and completely went with the youth movement, and he talked about the idea being, they're all going to grow together. Well, at some point, I think they're going through this knowing that this was a very real possibility. I think they get to a point this offseason where Brian has to ask himself, it's kind of like in Moneyball.
Sure.
Do you believe in this thing or not?
Well, it's also like, this is also not new for position groups in Green Bay, because look at the safety unit, not this past year, but the year before that, right? When I'm sitting there asking Mark Murphy, hey, so are we just throwing our hands up and going, we don't know.
Are you coming out of retirement?
And he's just
safety?
like, he's like, we're pretty much doing that, because it's like, how can these guys develop and how can they step up? So I think now, like, you've identified the needs. Now it's about how are they going to go get it. Jair, who the hell knows what's going to happen with that? It seems like things are very much out the door.
He's gone.
So in that case, you're going to need to bring in a CB. You have the draft capital. I'm sorry. You have the
free agency maneuverability.
You have the maneuverability. You have the flexibility. And I think if they're going to go and spend money on a guy, right, and again, here comes the capital question. It's going to be a corner, it's going to be that kind of guy.
I would think they go possibly like premium positions in the draft always, but this is maybe a bit outside the norm for Brian and the Packers. I don't doubt that they're going to be, at least having those conversations and talking to people in free agency at corner, at pass rusher, and at wide receiver.
And I know some folks are just like, hey, Josh Jacobs shouldn't have said anything publicly. Right?
I love that he did. But
again, like, the way that is very easily solved, right? Like, one, it's February.
Yeah.
It's February 5th.
Right.
This is going to be a non-talking point by the time we get to training camp.
Exactly.
But in terms of just like, if you are a wide receiver on the Green Bay Packers, like, it's wide open. Yeah. Right. With questions of Romeo Doubs, with Christian Watts, Dontavian Wicks, there's still plenty of Packers fans, including myself, that believe in this guy.
Big
right.
Time.
Jaden Reed, 100% believe in this guy.
And the thing is, somebody in the chat, I think it was Jason, said, too many drops, which is 100% correct. But you know who also had too many drops early in their career? James Jones,
Jordy
Nelson, Devontae Adams.
When we almost ran him out of town.
All had major drop issues, and they all went on to become phenomenal wide receivers. And I'm not saying it's automatic. It's definitely going to happen.
Absolutely.
But the fact that, again, it's a different build in that room where we're used to at least a Donald Driver presence being very, steady as she goes while these other guys are coming along. They're all young and inconsistent together. Hopefully, one or more of these guys takes that step next season.
Which is amazing because, I think this narrative, this youngest team, has taken a life on its own, right?
Yes,
so, we look at
people either love it or hate it.
Yeah, last year of youngest team, this isn't it's something to be proud of, but this is also that something is usually a detriment to a team, right?
Yes.
Especially in terms of discipline,
Yep.
in terms of the plenty of penalties, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about being young and inconsistent. Our quarterback is young and inconsistent,
Very much so,
right?
Correct.
So, the entire Josh Jacobs, the veteran,
right?
The veteran
Exactly.
is now saying, "Hey, maybe we could use more of me's in this locker room to say, hey, here's how we can continue."
Myself and Xavier came in, and
Yes.
the vibe and all of that.
Yes.
All right, let's. We're gonna get to your questions real quick, but before we do, Tom, you're gonna love this. I got to give a shout out to our good friends over at PrizePicks. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on your projected stats, and place your entry. Quickly draws, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to PrizePicks.com. Use code CHTV. Spend $5 on lineups and get $50 instantly. PrizePicks is available in 43 different states, most importantly, including Wisconsin. I know you're a big PrizePicks guy. That's you.
That's crazy you memorized that entire thing.
I know. Pretty
that's
impressive,
crazy,
right? I didn't have that printed out at all.
No, that's wild.
That's pretty good, right?
That's pretty large.
That acting chops coming back.
Just got a call from
I just get it instantly.
That's it.
All right, here we go. Joey, what's up, man?
It's true.
Nagler needs to watch Coach.
The world needs to watch Coach.
That's
all right. It's one day when
is that the Tom Grossi YouTube
that's
series
the Tom Grossi
or
YouTube
the
series.
former
no, not the former television drama
show. Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah,
I have to watch Coach apparently.
I mean, yeah, if one day you're just like, hey, it's the end of the world.
Can I binge it?
Might need to take some time in between.
Okay,
but it's
all right.
time.
That sounds good.
That's fine.
I mean, I will. I mean, who knows? I got time.
That's true.
After
we
the
got
Super
nothing
Bowl,
but time.
We got nothing stretching out in front of us. So
that's it.
We'll see.
I'll
what
just
happens.
be streaming for 3 weeks to try to raise $1 million. That's it.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
We'll get you on there. We're gonna get
Joe, thanks for the super chat. If Jets decide to move on from Adams, would he demand a release versus being traded? I assume a trade would mean adjusting his contract.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, you can't even make these decisions until you figure out what the hell you're doing with Aaron Rodgers, right? Because if you're the Jets, I don't hate Aaron Rodgers on my team for one more year.
I love him this year.
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to have draft
You're here
somebody.
one more year.
One more year.
And you can go out and play as long as you want, buddy, until you do poorly or until the next guy is better. Then we're moving on.
You have the perfect, I mean, who would have ever thunk Aaron Rodgers bridge quarterback? But that's what he would be.
I mean, it's kind of amazing. It's kind of just full circle.
Crazy, man.
They just bring in this guy and he hates him. It'd be great.
Yeah, right. I can't wait.
Fantastic.
Alan, thanks for the super chat, man. Hey, guys, you both are great. Wide receivers not necessary, but nice if available. Maybe bring Adams for a team-friendly deal. Key term, affordable and friendly. I know what's funny. We laugh, but Josh Jacobs was intimating the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'd love to have him back at the right price.
But that's anybody, right? Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Devontae Adams is going to take a hometown discount.
No way in hell Devontae takes a discount.
But I think Devontae Adams is that kind of veteran presence. And again, it's a different offense. It's a whole different number of things. But yeah, I mean, I'd love Devontae back on the team. But if we don't get him, I'm not looking at it of, now we got nobody.
No, I agree. And I loved what Josh was talking about today regarding Devontae in practice and the way he would be such an amazing example for these young guys.
The route running alone.
Yeah.
Alone.
And just practice habits and the whole thing. This is a good question.
That is
Dustin,
a good question.
Is Crosby NFL Hall of Fame bound? He is 11 all-time scorer.
Packers Hall of Fame bound?
No question. He'll walk into the Packers Hall of Fame.
He's going to walk in on
I doubt it.
They are very particular about kickers. Listen, if Sharp isn't in there now, you know what I mean?
Good Lord.
Yeah, their number one preference is not going to be kickers. So I think it would be a tough battle to do
It's going to be tough to get him in there. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he picks up some steam 5 years out, right? Because that's the window that you got to wait.
100%.
Man, you could frame it made clutch kicks. He's the number one scorer.
One of the most
Packers
clutch
history.
kickers.
Blah, blah. You know, you could.
Yeah, he'll walk into Packers Hall of Fame. But
no question. Andrew, thanks to Super Chat, man. Love seeing cool people hype up cool people. Tom, the work you are doing is amazing. Nags, thank you for all the amazing work you do. Realistically, are there any wide receivers out there we would sign? Well, see, this is what I always say, though. Can we get through re-signings and tags first?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to even kind of contemplate. I know T. Higgins has been the dominant name.
If the two names are Kupp and Higgins, I'm not interested.
I'm out.
And I think Higgins is a very good wide receiver.
I do too.
I think the injury concerns and the amount of money that he is going to command, even from his own team, who might wind up re-signing him.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't think that those are the two options that the Packers are going to look at, because I think that there are other positions that you spend that kind of premium money on.
Yep.
And again, capital,
And they have not in the past. They haven't really considered wide receiver a premium position. It's corner, it's pass rusher, it's tackle.
Yeah.
Those are the big three.
Yeah.
Soder, how you doing, man? Need to go into 2025 with multiple guys that can take the top off.
I agree.
When Watson was out, it just got too condensed. It's crazy how noticeable it is when Watson's not in there, how things become.
I don't know, Aaron.
Such a
I was
struggle.
told that he's such a mid wide receiver and he's not good and doesn't do anything for the team. That's what I was told over and over again by the chat. Christian Watson statistically makes that offense better. Like statistically,
like just being on the field,
he makes it better.
Agreed.
Right, like I'm not going to compare him to Mike Wallace, but like it's that old Mike of just like the guy who could just run.
Yep.
Right, and like somebody's got to account.
Got to deal with it.
So,
as an offense or as a defensive coordinator, you have to deal with it.
And Watson has a build type and also a play type that is just not replicated on this current roster
at all.
And again, like I don't know if it's going to work out for him. Like we get to see how he's going to come back from injury.
Never know. And that's the other problem. We keep talking about we being the collective outside the organization, but I know the time frame everyone talks about is like around week 12. All right, so whatever that means, okay, let's say that's true. Let's say week 12 happens and there he is. It's not like he just hits the ground running.
There we go. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's a need. It is a need. And I think if I'm Goody, right, like I am looking to get some insurance on that, because if you don't know what he's going to look like 3 months into the season, first of all, you need someone for the first 12 weeks.
Got to work.
And then again, it's like you said before, like who knows what's going on with Romeo Dobbs? Like that's terrifying. The dude like major concussion, another concussion on top of that.
And they said, but what's weird is that Brian's saying that there's no long-term concerns at that end season-ending press conference. I mean,
I would be shocked if they don't leave the draft with at least two receivers. Like I think that might be a seventh rounder. You know what I mean? But like I would not be surprised if they're going
adding to that room.
Yeah, just adding to that room, getting that insurance, because
everybody will be like, "Oh, great, more young wide receivers." Hey, as long as they have some like baller measurables, no one will care. Yeah, it'll be good. We got some high RAS. Yeah, we'll be good.
Let's go get George Pickens. That's what everyone wants.
Could you imagine?
No.
Could you imagine?
I think
the most un-Green Bay move
would be
for the most un-Green Bay
Mark
player
Murphy's
ever.
last duty as president would be like, I'm vetoing this.
I have never stepped in, but I am stepping in.
This is the time I'm vetoing. I can't do it.
All right. Ed, thanks for the super chat, man. Two best analysts in one spot. Sure hope someone has made Matt LaFleur aware of this.
Matt LaFleur is always listening to podcasts.
Matt LaFleur is a big-time She Said TV viewer, listener. He has the app on his phone, so he's watching. No doubt about it. Julian, thanks for the super chat, man. Packers must. We'll go after a dominant pass rusher. Thoughts? I don't care if it's a pass rusher like edge rusher. I don't care if it's interior. I don't care where he lines up on the defensive front. I want disruption. But I love the idea of, adding to the pass rush.
I think like it makes it super exciting because there's two elite pass rushers whose names keep getting thrown around, right? It's Myles Garrett and it's Max Crosby.
Yep.
The problem is, as I mentioned before, like it's capital. Like, is Brian Gutekunst going to go, hey, this is going to cost, I'm just throwing out a number. This is going to cost 2 first-round picks plus the that's a lot. That's a lot for the Green Bay Packers.
And in those conversations, there are lots of other teams that have a lot of capital.
So, and put it this way, right? So I think if you go, let's just play perfect world here. Let's just say you go get a Max Crosby or a Myles Garrett, right? Let's just say you get one of them.
It happens.
That's going to make your secondary better. Great. Yep. It's going to make your offense better. So, because then we still have the same offense. Like they're still going to have to address those. Can you address it with the rest of the draft capital that you have and the cap space that you have? Because when you're taking those guys on, those are pretty big contracts.
It's going to affect things,
right? So at that point, you're going to need to say, okay, can you, with this elite pass rusher, can that fill enough gaps and enough holes that makes your team ready to go? Because you're not bringing those guys in unless you're like, hey, it's Super Bowl right now.
Yes, we are going
for
it.
Like we were talking about. earlier in the season when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt for the Lions, right? Max Crosby, his name was flying around with there too.
Yeah.
And I was like, the Lions are never going to do this during the season because one, that's draft capital, and two, they're not even going to have the benefit of having Hutch and also
having them together.
And here with the Packers, you need another guy there. Like having Myles Garrett there is going to be great, but guess what? They're going to double the crap out of him. So there's going to be other guys that are going to have to step up on that line to be the other disruptor.
It's funny you mentioned that because this is why I keep coming back to, you would mostly almost always say I would be shocked if it happened, but because Lucas Van Ness has shown so little and he was such a significant investment, free agency in Green Bay has been used to paper over the mistakes you make in the draft. You got Xavier McKinney in there for Darnell Savage. You've got Josh Jacobs in there for A.J. Dillon. It's like, that's the line. Like, we swung on these picks and we missed, and now we're fixing it.
And so they doubled up on tight end, right? And going because they had Josiah DeGuara. And they were just like, okay, let's go get ourselves Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. And Musgrave was going to be the guy. And now it's Tucker Kraft.
Now he can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
and
right.
Kraft is really developed,
exactly. Which is great. Which is wonderful. It's a good problem to have.
Doubt.
But ultimately, it's going to be, where are you going to try and rectify these problems? Is it going to be in free agency with a really big swing, or is it going to be the draft and develop true method? And go bargain bin? I think that they're going to bring somebody in. I think that there's going to be a relatively big contract they're going to bring in because they hit a home run with it this past offseason.
I want Ogobasa from Dallas. That's my dream. I don't think it's going to happen. I doubt he actually makes it to free agency, but if he does, that's my dream. I had such a huge crush on him in the draft. We'll see.
You know who I liked coming out of the draft a few years ago? Oren Burks.
Who's that?
Oren Burks. Really liked him a few years ago coming out of the draft.
Had a nice chat with Oren the other day.
That's what I saw. Yeah, I saw that. I had a really good chat.
He's a big fan. Big fan.
Really friendly.
Ryan, thanks for the super chat. Do you see us drafting more offense or defense in the first 3 rounds? I default to defense because that's what the Packers always do.
I think it's defense because you look at the positions of most need, and I don't think they're going to go O-line in the first round.
No, because they've got that track record.
I think they go D-line, pass rusher, or they're going to go corner. I think that makes the most sense. And then from there, you're going to see maybe there's a second round receiver that you're going to want to get. Again,
it's about premium positions, and 2 out of the 3 are on the defensive side of the ball. So I would see that.
Vin is 100% right.
Vin, thanks for the super chat, man.
I don't know why we can't all just do this.
All they got to do is get Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Devontae Adams, and T. Higgins to win the Super Bowl. How hard could it be, Twitter GMs?
I mean, that sounds easy peasy.
Vin, that's really well stated. And we're going to leave it there because Tom has been gracious with his time, and he's got to get going places. But I'm going to meet all you Patreon members and Care of the G Club members at the top of the hour for happy hour. So, Tom, thank you so much for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Great to meet you.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming on this little podunk website of ours called She Said
You have a wonderful table here.
Thank you. Well, I worked real hard, Tom. I worked real hard for this table.
I'm just, what? I'm glad that you got your table. No one messed with it, and you are here on Radio Row.
Us.
That's it.
Nothing else.
It's just me, Oos. Day one.
Tom, I really appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon. Make sure you check out Grossi's stuff. I'll link to it in the description of this video if you have been living on another planet and you don't know who this man is.
A week from the Super Bowl, Sunday, February 16th. $1 million or $1 million. We're going to be streaming until we hit either $1 million for charity for Children of Fallen Patriots, an awesome organization I totally just started plugging in the middle of your podcast, and I'm so sorry.
Please do.
Children of Fallen Patriots, it is a phenomenal charity. They have a perfect rating on Charity Navigator. They have about 30 employees, 19 are Gold Star families, and it helps kids who lost a parent in the line of duty, whether it was via suicide, whether it was diseases, or it was via combat, go to school. And so there's a high need after Afghanistan and Iraq that all those kids are now of school age. Right. So we will be streaming until we hit either 1 million subscribers or $1 million for that charity. And so if I got to stream for a week and sleep on stream, why not both?
I love it. We'll link to it in the video description. Tom, you're the man. Thank you so much, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.